head on a swivel. You're paying attention to everything that's going on around you. Because once you put your head down into your camera and you're doing your work, you got to know what's coming on around you.
Hi, welcome to Music Behind the Lens. I'm your host, Martin Bowen. Belter, out there in California. Thanks for joining Music Behind the Lens. Music photography, and obviously you do other things. You've got your own company as well. But the beginning, just give me a chat. How did it all start for you?
Sure. So, Martin, first of all, thanks for having me. I really appreciate this. And, we've known each other not personally, but for quite a number of years,
Yeah,
following each other's work. You have some of those amazing photography out there as well. And, I started this whole thing. I had a passion for music. I've loved music my whole life. I've been to, literally thousands of shows and, since I was a young kid. And one of my friends, Jason Miller, who's a photographer, friend of mine who's now out in England. We were talking one day, and he was telling me about his exploits, traveling around and visiting, doing shows and things. And I just got the idea at that point, like, hey, this might be something interesting, to tie in my love of music and my love of
mhm,
photography. And he kind of was playing with me a little bit. He goes, it's really hard to get into, it's challenging, and not everyone can do it. And it kind of got me all fired up because I hate, being challenged that I can't do something. And so,
yeah,
this was probably back, I've been taking photos for many years, but not really music.
mhm,
And it was probably around 2014 where I finally said, yep, I'm going to do it. I'm going to try to figure this out. And it literally started at a small club in downtown in Hollywood called the Mint.
mhm,
And I had a friend, a fraternity brother of mine who knew the owner, and I just asked, would you mind if I just came and took pictures, of your club? And it's a lot different today, obviously, than it was then. But I spent roughly a year
mhm,
just going to this club every week on Tuesday nights, and I just take pictures of no-name bands and learning my camera and my gear, and that's how I got started. That was the genesis of it. It was kind of a challenge that I couldn't do it, and I had to figure out how to do it. So I kind of taught myself
yeah.
along the way, and you know, made inroads to the point where I got my first photo pass about a year later, right?
Right.
So
Yeah. Yeah. That's quite similar to how it started for me as well. It's just through my nephew was in a band at the time, but I was like yourself. I was just taking photographs, having enjoying the photography side of things for so many years, and I just followed them and did back behind the scenes with them. And then there was a little cafe that I used to go along, and it was just people doing acoustic sets, and I was just take some pictures there and just learning the craft from there. Um, do you remember that the moment um, when it started really becoming serious for you, rather than, or was it is it more or less a hobby for you?
sure,
The music photography side of things.
yeah. Um, you know, for the first year, as I told you, when I was going to the club, it was just learning. It was, being social, learning how to interact with people.
Hmm.
Because in photography, it's not just taking pictures. You have to have relationships with folks, and they have to trust you. And so I was learning a lot about that. And I spent quite a bit of time, just talking to different people. And about a year into it, I got my first photo pass, legitimate photo pass, because the club that I was shooting for was called Honey Pot Live. It's the other publication I'm still affiliated with, and
Right. Okay.
he's like, "Look, we don't do anything like this. If you want to do it, do it. You can use our website. You can build it out how you want." And I remember reaching out. It was one of the pictures I had sent over to you was disturbed,
Right.
and
Yeah.
so I reached out to the publicist, kind of cold called via email, and asked if I could get a photo pass to a show local here in Southern California, and she said no. And then the next day, I got an email saying, "Hey, we do have a space open, but you're going to have to go down to San Diego to do this." And I was like,
Oh.
"Fine, I'll be glad to go." So jumped in the car and went down there and had my first like literal pit experience, the first one in a year.
Mm.
And I didn't know what I didn't know at that time. Had an opportunity to meet some cool photographers in the pit, and many that I'm friends with today. But once I walked away from that, I felt this was really, this is something that I could build upon.
Mm.
It wasn't just at that point anymore. It wasn't a hobby. It was kind of like, how do you take the thing that you love or things that you love, the music and the photography and the interaction with people, and how do you build that out? And I at that point I said, you know what, I'm going to try to do this much more seriously. And with Matthias and other people, the whole rock star group,
Mm.
tried to learn from people, watch what people were doing, and realize that, look, if I'm going to be doing this, I have to try to figure out a way to make this manageable with my regular work and other types of things. And so it was at that point that I'm like, yeah, I want to be serious about this, from a journalistic perspective, and
Mm-hmm.
do
Mm-hmm.
publication work, and it just kind of grew from there.
Yeah. I mean that. I think that's what you touched on about the shooting as rock stars community. I think that's where we all kind of met up at the time, and I think we're all chasing the same thing,
Yep.
learning new things, and um, mutual likes of music, photography, artwork, illustration,
Yes.
graphic design,
Yep.
journalism. Because I hadn't a clue how to run a magazine either. So, and when I get started and through the help through Matthias's group, it's been fantastic for me. Um, so, can you remember the first time that um, when you're taking photographs that it was something really special? And you were saying, right, this is it. This is what I'm going to continue to do. I mean, it's like it's a spark for me.
Sure.
It was like I've tried to stop doing it, but for some odd reason, I always go back to it. I do other photography as well, but there's something about the music, the artwork. Um, is there anything in there that you can remember that was the first time that you got that wow in the photo pit?
Yeah, I do. So around, 2016, 2017, I was just, just starting. I didn't know much
Mm,
about anything, and everything I was doing was like from a fire hose, right? So
right, yeah.
um, I couldn't get enough, and that to itself is kind of addicting, right?
Yeah.
I tried. We all think at that point it's about building a portfolio and having as many pictures as possible, and
Mm,
I didn't know any different. So I'm like trying to go to shows all the time. If I get approved, I'm going. And my
mm,
family didn't necessarily like that. They're like, "You're gone all the
yeah.
time now."
Mm,
And so the time that I knew this is special, and it really, that special moment, it was my first big show, and within about a year and a half, I got and I think it was more of a courtesy than anything else. I don't think I had earned it, but somehow I
mm,
got it. It was for Metallica.
mm,
And it was a big stadium show, and I've never done anything like that. And one of my friends, Chris Loomis, who we're still friends to this day, we drove down together and we walked into the stadium, and I've never really seen anything like it. There was maybe 80,000 people,
Wow.
and I'm up at the front of the stage, turning around, just going like, man, this is like I've never experienced anything like this in my life.
Yeah.
And the energy, right, Martin, the energy that you get when you're in front of that many people is highly addictive, and you're
Yeah.
like, wow, this is special. And I've been following Metallica since I was 12,
Mm.
right? The early days, and my childhood, and the vinyl, and to be there with your heroes and taking pictures of that. The only concern I had was I'm not really good yet. I don't
Yeah.
really have a talent, so I'm going to be able to get what I can get, and hopefully it'll work out. So that was kind of that special initial moment where I'm like, this means a lot to me. It's not just going to clubs. It's not just taking pictures of it's kind of it's living you're reliving and developing out this stuff that started when I was 12, 13, 14 years old. The
Hmm.
passion of and the energy when you're up against the barrier. When I was a kid, I'd go to shows all the time, and my goal was always to be at the front, right? I'd be up on the
Right.
rail. I'd be, whatever the music was, my earliest memories of shows were just, having fun with my friends, drinking some beers, and
Hmm.
just enjoying the whole process, right?
Yeah. Hmm.
And now all of a sudden you know, I I didn't think I was special, but I'm like, wow, what access do I have? This is something incredible,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
Incredible.
Yeah.
So it was at that point I'm like, okay, I can do this, and it just kind of took off from there. That energy, the passion. And I took a lot more time at that time to realize that if I'm going to be serious about this, I have to invest in myself,
Hmm.
with my gear, with how I present myself. It's not just, it wasn't just the hobby anymore, and
Yeah.
so that's kind of how it took off.
Yeah. I mean, I think I started off like the point and shoots, like bridge cameras, Fuji, and then I started with film as well, but I never really actually shot in the pit with a film camera. But I'd just like to go on to the next section, which was the pressure, which just fits into about when we're actually at the venue and what goes through your mind when you actually turn up to that venue and whatever pass it is, and then you how you deal with it with the security, the 3 song rule, um,
Mhm.
different aspects of when you how you go about it, and do you feel any pressure when you get there?
Yeah, and I think I'd like to share a couple things. There's kind of an evolution of that for
Yeah.
me. When I'm working in publication work, for my own publication or others, there is a pressure. You're going to a venue. It could be a new one. It might be one you go to all the time,
Hmm.
and you know as well as I that what you get in an email and what you actually get are could be very different. You could, hey, first 3 songs from the pit ends up first 2 songs from soundboard, right?
Hmm.
And so I learned in an earlier part of this, journey that you have to literally prepare for everything that could potentially happen. And when I didn't do that initially, there was a lot of pressure. I'm like, oh my God, I hope this works out.
Yeah.
I hope it's going to be in the right place and that the pit's going to be clean. It's not going to be overcrowded or whatever. Um, there's also a different level of stress if you're shooting in a place where there's not a pit. Like, hey, just you're going to shoot from the crowd.
Hmm.
Because I'm not a big get there early kind of guy. And so I'm a bigger guy too. So I
Yeah.
don't necessarily like to take up space from other people who are poor paying for tickets and things. And so there
Hmm.
was always a pressure, to, you know, I think the first thing I learned was to study. Who am I going to shoot and study who they are, watch
Hmm.
videos. One of my mentors that you know of, Steve Brazel,
Yeah.
um,
No, Steve. Yeah.
Steve and he's helped me tremendously over the years. And one of the things he always told me was, look, it's good to study, watch some videos, try to see where they post up and
Yeah.
what they're going to do. many bands do the same thing over and over again. So how do you make it different?
Mm.
I took that very seriously because when you go to a show, you know, you could use Youngblood as an example. I mean, he's
Yeah.
going to many arenas, and the pictures are, for the most part, going to be the same.
Yeah.
So how do you do something a little different?
Mm.
So you know, dealing with that pressure early on in my career was it was studying, it was listening to the music, it was you know understanding my camera really well, so
Yeah.
that I didn't have to play around in the pit with it and get nervous. And early on, I did. Um, and then the unique thing that happened for me was I started to get comfortable with
Mhm.
myself, my gear, my process. And then I started doing paid work for arenas. And that's a
Mhm.
different pressure, you
Yeah.
know, because now all of a sudden it's like you get the same, you know, first two or three songs from wherever. In many cases for me, it's soundboard. And then you have to turn that around really quick for their social media channels and other things,
Mhm.
and you're being paid for something that they want in a very particular way.
Yeah.
And and so that pressure changed. It changed a little bit for me because it went from something that I, you know, I'm passionate about, I enjoy, to all those things, and then you have a financial part to it.
Mhm.
And so, you know, I think the first couple shows I was pretty nervous, just like I hope that I can translate what I've always done this way. And I knew I could, but
Mhm.
you know, you don't know what you don't know. And then when you start working through it and you start getting comfortable with the people that you're working with, you kind of understand what their needs are, and it becomes a lot less mentally challenging. And I think I settled back in. But I would say, Martin, that everything that I do there, if you're passionate about it, you care about it,
Yeah.
you're always going to have an anxiety about what you're doing.
Mhm.
And it's a good anxiety, not a bad one. It's one that
Mhm.
you're kind of amped up and you're like, okay, I've got all these things that are moving.
Mhm.
And I think if I wasn't like that, my work wouldn't be the way it is, nor anyone who is passionate about their work. There has to be that healthy anxiety to succeed and to do right. And so all that preparation and work that you do ahead of time can
Mhm.
pay off at the back end when you're like you said, sitting behind your computer with a cup of coffee at 2 in the morning editing
Mhm.
photos. Wife's asleep, kids are wherever they are, your dogs are not knocked out, and you're just sitting there listening to music in your headphones and you're doing your work.
Mhm.
And I think that's the best time for me, you know.
Yeah.
And you know, if you've done all the work and and practice is a big part of this, not just being in photo pits, but literally learning your gear to the point where you can master all of that to
Mhm.
give you the best chance to
Yeah.
get Blood's photo, the one that you want that no one else has. And so I love this question because it's something that I still feel today, that the pressure and the anxiety in very positive and good ways.
Mhm.
And I think a lot of times I was working for Katy Perry and the Honda Center recently, last
Mhm.
summer, I think. And it was amazing how many people came to that show as a photographer not prepared to shoot that show.
Yeah. Mhm.
They, you know, I think 9 out of 10 people couldn't shoot from where we were because they didn't research it.
Yeah. Well,
And
that happened to me with the Katy Perry last year as well, but I wasn't that I forgot to bring my bigger lens, but when we turned up, they put us up in the arena up the stairs in the second level. But because
mhm,
she was kind of flying around, she was coming up quite close to us, so it kind of worked for
yeah,
me. But no, you're 100%. I know exactly how that felt, and that pressure was on. And I'm thinking, okay, what am I going to do? I'm going to have to just get on with it. Sorry for
yeah,
interrupting there. So, but just when you mentioned Katy Perry, that just
yeah,
I realised because we were at front of house initially, and then we're thinking we're not going to get a good shot here, and we'd actually mentioned to the staff, could we go up the stairs and the security and all that, like they took the pressure and being nice to them. They said,
mhm,
yeah, let's come, let's go, and they put us in the corridor where, like we talk about, the fans were sitting in the arena, so we were quite a bit second level up. And I just utilised what I could get. I even used my 14mm to get the whole big wide
yeah,
uh, show as well. But she was coming down like a Well, I did a front cover on my magazine with her, but she was just flying around, and then I was on the one left with a review tickets, which was quite cool because the rest of them had to leave, so I got to see the
That,
full show. So yes, sorry for interrupting there. So, but
oh,
yeah, the pressures. I think pressure's important. Positive pressure. IPTC trying to get the like the Youngblood one for me as well. I had to get the images out within a certain period of time, and I'm editing in my car, but my laptop died. And I'm thinking, all right. And my daughters were at the show as well, so I had to wait for them. And I was
mhm.
already out in the car. But I went home and I stayed up to 2 and 3 in the morning to get them out. It's just kind of things you do, and you think, well, would you do that for your normal day job? I don't know.
Yeah, I'm with you for sure. Yep.
Yeah, but you do if it's you need the money. So have you ever been in a chaotic pit or a pit that's just Per All mentioned there was 17 photographers or something, and one that he was in recently in the last interview, and he showed me a picture of he just decided to photograph the photographers all mingled in together.
Yep.
And I was one, the prodigy I was in that was just absolutely chaotic. But is there anyone that you can recall?
Can. Yeah. So we had a show. It was probably it was I don't know what year this was. Probably 4 or 5 years ago, maybe.
Mhm.
I don't even know if it was before the pandemic, but it was my first time shooting Slipknot,
Okay, yeah.
and I went with a group. You know, our group of photographers here locally is pretty close, and
Hmm.
we were very tight. And it was a very warm day up in this area. It was probably in the low hundreds. Um,
Right.
and there wasn't a lot of cover at the amphitheater we were at. And there was probably, you know, in our group that was approved to shoot maybe 12 photographers. And then there was probably another 8 to 10 that were approved by someone else, the
Right.
bands, whoever was there.
Yeah.
And we were in this photo pit, you know, Slipknot's getting ready to go. The sun's come down. It's looks like it's going to be beautiful. And they have you know, the kabukis hanging behind the thing. And we're all just crammed in there. And
Hmm.
then the first song takes off, that drops to the ground, the staff's pulling it out.
Hmm.
And the first thing that I recall was there was a wheelchair, right?
Hmm.
A wheelchair that was surfing from the back of the arena and they dumped it over into the pit, right? And so
Right.
we're like fending for ourselves,
Right.
you know, at the very onset of the show. And then as soon as it was gone, you know, he rolled out. He was so excited that he got to do this.
Hmm.
And it was literally you're fighting for your life in this photo pit because it was like people kept flying over,
Yeah.
you know, to the photographers. And so it was so chaotic because, you know, if you're standing in a pit by yourself or you have a handful of folks, you it's a little bit different to be able to frame up people. I'm going to get this shot. I'm going to get this one right.
Hmm.
Slipknot has 8 folks, eight whatever, 9 band members, and so this wasn't like that. This was just
Right.
straight. I hope you can hang on for the 3 songs that you got right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, I just remember walking out of the pit just drenched in sweat
Right.
and checking my gear to make sure I still had all the pieces of my cameras there. And you know, and it was fun because I actually got some really great stuff.
Yeah.
In the midst of that, like you said, the turmoil in the pit, photographers, and you know, I sometimes you don't do that. You know, you're not taking pictures of other photographers because we're not there to do that. But in these cases, it's kind of like, you know, Corey Taylor might be leaning over. He's got his
Hmm.
mask. He looks great, and then there's 3 or 4 other photographers that are kind of geared up around him, and it turns out to be
Right.
really nice.
Yeah.
Um, but that kind of chaos, you know, I've found that depending on who you're shooting, like
Hmm.
Youngblood would be another example of another
Yeah. Yeah.
place that could be really chaotic. And there's other bands that not so much, you know.
Yeah.
So I like that. I enjoy
Hmm.
it when I get it.
Hmm.
But now it's more I plan out the shows that I want to see, and that's like I've got my list of, hey, I've never done this. I want to make sure this is done before I do this one again.
Hmm.
And then there's a few other ones, if they ever come, like Non Point's a great example.
Hmm.
It's like the most insane show. in a small venue that you could ever expect.
Hmm.
And people are flying all over the place, and it's just exciting. So I would do that every time.
Yeah. Yeah.
But that excitement is what makes this so fun. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's usually beer that usually lands on the back of my head. And Youngblood, I got he threw there's a section where he throws his lager all over the place, and it,
Hmm.
it came it came my direction, so I could actually taste it. It was running
Mm.
down my face, and I'm looking at my
Ah,
camera. I'm going, okay. I just got on with it. It's just part of his show. You expect it. I just remember at a festival last year, my colleague um, was standing in the pit, and no matter where he moved, he was standing next to me. There was a tumbler of whatever came over, hit him in the back of the head, and he just looks to me, for goodness sake. So he steps to the right, just about a foot away, and another one comes and hits him again, and it misses me, so I couldn't stop laughing. Um,
good.
and that was at a festival, and there was the pit wasn't even busy. I just think it was because of the artist that was on the stage. It was like really rocking out, and whoosh, you just see this lager coming, incoming.
Yeah.
You're like, okay, camera. Oh no, it's absolutely brilliant. Um, how do you stay calm in that environment? I mean, it's pretty hard sometimes. Like you say, we talk about the pressure and getting a shot, just concentration. But how do you stay calm, or is it just it's just natural? It just
Um, that's a great question. I think as an early on in my career, I think it was hard to keep it together, because
hmm
if you're in, I mean, think there's a couple different ways to think about it. It could be a band that's on your list. You're like, I can't believe I'm shooting this. Like Metallica for me, like first time, it's like I can't believe I'm doing this, and I'm trying to stay calm and not be a fan per se.
yeah,
But it's hard to separate it, right?
yeah.
And then there's the parts like the Youngbloods or Slipknots or these other Metallica's another one
hmm
where it just becomes so chaotic. And I think what I try to do is I try to just realize that look, everyone who's here with me, all the fellow photographers are here to do the same thing. We love music, we have a passion for photography, and we're all here to get shots, and we need to be respectful of one another in the pit. We need to allow ourselves to all get the shots that we need in 3 minutes. And so where that challenge comes in these days is, a lot of the newer rotation of photographers don't necessarily have all that experience yet.
hmm hmm
So what I try to do as I'm thinking about how to keep calm is just I breathe and I just keep in my mind, what did I come here to do? And what shots am I looking for? And I just try to stay on task with that.
Yeah,
If you get taken away by, like, hey, the wheelchair's flying over into the pit, it can throw you off.
yeah.
And you can be derailed for 20, 30 seconds. And then you're like, okay. And, in many cases, I mean, there's other times where it's been so chaotic, they just take you out of the pit and say, it's too dangerous. We're going to have to move you on.
Yeah,
And
that's happened to us. Yeah, yeah, it's happened
yeah,
at a festival for us. Just seeing the crowd just starting to slip and
yep.
swaying, and they got us out. Sorry,
Yep.
it's interrupting you.
So I just to stay calm, I just I don't do any when I'm working. I think
Mhm.
everything that I do, whether it's publication work or whether it's with an arena, I'm not drinking, I'm not smoking, I'm not doing anything that's gonna impair me. It's more about just paying attention, drinking a lot of water, making sure that I'm hydrated so I'm not getting
Mhm.
dehydrated
Yeah.
and just really paying attention, your head on a swivel. You're paying attention to everything that's going on around you,
Mhm.
because once you put your head down into your camera and you're doing your work, you got to know what's coming on around you,
Mhm. Mhm.
And so I think that's been very helpful for me. It's just staying on task and it comes through experience. I wish
Yeah.
I could say that happened early on. I was much more nervous and you didn't know what you didn't know every show because every show was so new.
Mhm.
Different
Mhm.
venue staff, different band. You know, many years into it, I've gone to most of these places. I've experienced it all. So I go in there with a much more of a confident feeling.
Hmm.
But then again, there's always that show that I walk into going, wow, this
Yeah,
is
I still get
this
that.
is a,
Yeah,
this is a big one, and
yeah,
I hope I'm ready for it.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I think it's quite nice. We touched on the fact that we're starting to know each other. It's quite a tight community where we are as well. We know each other. I mean, I know a lot of the guys at your end as well. Um, and I think when you see a familiar face in there, it's quite handy as well because if you go to a new venue, you don't know anyone.
Hmm.
You're not sure about the setup. I mean, when you've went to these shows as well and you've done your research and different things, is there any particular shot that you're looking for? Have you ever missed anything that it's been on your agenda to get, or is it just?
Yeah. When I was talking about this with someone the other day,
Hmm.
one of my students and working with her, and I don't shoot with a 24 to 70 anymore. I like to shoot with a much like a 16 to 35. I like wider shots.
Right.
I like the background. I like the rafters. I like lights, and I just like it more cinematic. And so what I try to when I'm going into any of these shoots, I usually will do a review of maybe if I've shot the band before, like what have I got before,
Hmm.
and with that research and then the research on top of it, in terms of the internet or wherever I'm looking, I'll come up with a shot list of things that I'm excited to get. Maybe I haven't got before. Most of the time, it's if it's a larger band or three, four piece band, I'm going to try to get shots of everybody.
Hmm.
So,
Hmm.
drummer, bassist, keyboardist, guitar, etc.
Yeah.
And I really make that a priority because I think that, it's very easy to go into a show these days and you could look at the lead singer and say that's what he or she is all about. But
Yeah.
all these other folks work really hard too, and they deserve, in many cases, to get that same recognition. And so I start there, and then I think through like what wide shots do I want? Are there any other shots that I want to do that are close up? It could be a kind of a macro shot on a guitar or someone's
Hmm.
tattoos or things. I'll look at all that stuff. And I'll just mentally click that stuff off in my head,
Right.
along the way. Working for the venue is a little different because I have a little bit more flexibility with certain things.
Hmm.
If it's first three from the pit, usually I can go up into the rafters after that and I can get an arena shot. I can do some, multiple exposure shots with different things that you wouldn't necessarily be able to get anywhere else. So
Yeah.
I have a different list when I'm working, for an arena or a club that'll help me. And sometimes those things are just me asking what they want. Hey, would you like it sold out tonight? Would you like the arena shot? Would you, from what angle?
Hmm.
Um, so on and so forth. And then if I get any additional access, that's wonderful. It's harder these days, but
Yeah.
if I can get a stage shot or I can do something different, so be it. But it's
Hmm.
all planning, Martin, for me.
Hmm. Hmm.
And then the other part is kind of there's certain things you just can't plan for. You
Yeah.
know,
Hmm.
um, we you mentioned Howard Jones. I just did an interview with him.
Right.
Um,
Yeah.
he's an amazing artist. I follow him for his whole career.
Hmm.
And we had a show here in Southern California, and it was I think opening. It was ABC open for him, and then we were just getting ready to shoot, and
Hmm.
there were sirens, and immediately they evacuated this place. No one would have even thought there was a gas leak outside, and they
Right.
literally evacuated everybody out of the place within like 15 minutes, and everyone's running for the streets, and it was over. The show was done.
Wow. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so I got a chance to go back and re-review it when he came back,
Hmm.
but the review changed from Howard Jones with ABC to ABC, and that was it.
Right. Yeah.
But you just sometimes you can't plan for what transpires at,
Hmm.
at a show, and you just have to. Again, it goes back to what you were saying earlier. You have to be mindful and you have to keep yourself calm and organized. And part of
Hmm.
that is just the prep that you do and the experience over and over of doing it. And it
Hmm.
comes with the
Yeah.
work.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, it's when you turn up at a gig and you realise that you do need your bigger lenses, like I touched on earlier on, and that the only reason I didn't have the lens is because there's a big story behind that one. I did have a 600, and I sold it in marketplace, and it's gone. I never get any payment
Mhm.
for it. Never do that. Never sell anything in
But
marketplace.
but Mark, one thing that I will say, there is one thing that gets me wound up from an anxiety perspective, and I'm sure you experience this too. I
Yeah.
think every photographer has, but we prepare with everything that we do, right? We
Hmm.
prepare for it all, and you get into the photo pit, and your camera has an error,
Yeah.
right, of some sort.
Mm.
And I remember being at a paid gig, and I have extra cards and all that stuff, and it
Hmm.
wasn't reading any of. I couldn't figure out what was going on, and
Right.
I'm sitting there going, "Oh my God, this is a mess." And so we had a break. I was able to step out, get this done,
Hmm.
and I found that the setting, the little slide, the protector slides on the cards,
Yeah. Hmm.
um, were somehow got all shifted down to lock, so you couldn't do anything.
Right.
And I didn't you're in the moment, so you're not thinking clearly. You're like, okay, I got to get this done. I've got about 7 minutes before I got to go back out, and then you're quickly jumping on Zoom, on your phone, like, hey, this
Hmm.
doesn't work. What's the problem? And you try to figure it out.
Yeah.
And for me, that's been the biggest challenge,
Yeah.
and
Hmm.
that's where my biggest anxiety comes from sometimes when you have a mechanical failure or something else. So,
Yeah, because I'm going to touch on the next section about your gear and different things and what you actually use. But that I think happens a lot with the mirrorless cameras, I think, as well. I know because you have to set a setting on it, not to shoot without the card in it. And that happened to me with my Z7 too.
mhm.
I was taking loads of pictures thinking that the card was in it, and it wasn't. So the question that I've got, and probably the same that you've got there, has your gear changed the way you see a show? Um, what kind of gear do you use? And is there any lens instinctively that you reach for?
Okay. So, when I started many years ago, I was really merely a product of what I could afford, right?
Mm, yeah,
I didn't know, and I didn't want to invest in a lot because I didn't know if this is going to be something that I loved or didn't. So I was shooting with a 50 millimeter at that point. I think a
mm,
lot of people did the nifty 50 and they did that.
yeah,
Um, and then, the standard two lenses that I started in my kit were the 20, I shoot Canon,
hmm,
and I had a 24 to 70 and a 70 to 200, and that pretty much covered everything. And then, instinctively, as you get better and you do more things, you get soundboard shoots, so you got to have a longer lens.
hmm,
So I bought a Tamron 150 to 600, so I could get some of that stuff. But as I evolved with my photography, I truly, 15 or 16 to 35 was where I kind of landed because I like
hmm,
the cinematic look of those photos. I like the background. I'm not I do have things that are tight, and I
hmm,
shoot sometimes like that. But I like the wide the ability to get multiple people in shots and to get background and to get lighting rigging, and I find that that's the most energy for me comes from those types of shots. And so right now my go-to lens is my I shoot Canon mirrorless. I have an R5 and an R6,
right,
and
yeah,
I shoot primarily with that 15 to 35, and then the 70 to 200. Um, I also I just kind of bought the adapter for my longer lens so I can get it up to around 400 for longer shoots, and I think that works fairly well for most, and it's a lot lighter. But that 15 to 35 for me is my sweet spot. It's the energy for me, and not every stage is equipped for that. Sadly,
right,
I've
yeah,
gone to a lot of stages that it's too high, or it's too big, for what you can get from it. So you have to almost adjust yourself a little bit. Like if I'm doing housework and I'm in the pit by myself, many
hmm,
shows I am, I have to, like, this after the third song, I might leave the pit altogether, and I might go
Right.
back 20 rows and get shots behind because then I can get the entire stage set up the way that I want it,
Right.
appropriately.
Hmm.
But I've been shooting Canon my whole life. I started off with 5D Mark III, and I got a
Hmm.
5D Mark IV, and then I got the digital, the mirrorless stuff.
Hmm.
And my next lens, I'm going to probably try to find some fisheye of some sort. Canon just
Yeah.
released because I like that kind of stuff too. So, but that 16 to 15 to 35 is just for me. It's just energy, and
Hmm.
there's a few people that shoot like that, and primarily, I think I do more of that than anything else.
Hmm.
But that's kind of where I gravitate towards.
Yeah. I mean, I'm the house photographer for a couple of venues, and I tend to go school in with my 20-40-70 and my 14 to 24. I
Hmm.
don't. I have my 7200 on a think tank holder. I just have
Yep.
it there just in case I need it because I'm finding, like you're talking about, I like to get the wider shots, but I feel that because I'm the house photographer, I want to capture the atmosphere. I think we don't usually get like tasked to capture certain elements of the show, but I'm thinking out the box when I'm in the pit, and I'm
Hmm.
thinking just a couple of shots, not a plan. I'll try and get the full band, and like you mentioned, I want to get the full stage. I want I want to show what the show is and imagery rather than obviously people are enjoying it, but I want to just capture it all. And I'm probably thinking along those lines when I'm there.
Yeah.
Um, I'm trying to think of the band that I've got at the end of the month. Rainbow Candy or something they're called. I'm not sure. Um, they're from the States, but I don't know I don't really know who they are, but I just put my name down to cover it at the end of the month.
Okay.
I'll put it on I'll put it on the line at something at the point and remember it. And I'll message you to you and see if you know
Yeah.
who they are. Um but what was the question I was going to think? Just while we look at this a second. Yeah. So when you started out, obviously it was on in the beginning, and you've moved now. Do you shoot differently compared to when you first started? I mean, it's like I how when you first started, obviously we used the little point and shoots. The gear gets better.
Hmm.
You're now using a different lens. Um, is there a a change in there you can see, or are you still just constantly just adapting and
Um,
evolving?
yeah, I don't know if there's really been a change.
Hmm.
I think that where the change has become me becoming more technically proficient
Right.
at
Okay.
certain things that I didn't know my camera perhaps could do.
Hmm.
Um, you know, I I I I shoot different than a lot of folks. I'm I would say that I'm not as fast. Steve Brazel is an example. He's so good at being able to take his joystick and move his focal points all over the place quickly.
Hmm.
I
Yeah.
can't. I just don't have that ability in my head to do that.
Right.
And so I use back button and I'll
Hmm.
focus and recompose differently because that
Hmm.
works for me.
Right.
And I think that everyone has to kind of find their way. When I first started, there was a lot of challenges regarding when you don't uncouple the buttons on your trigger,
Hmm.
getting it in focus and all that stuff. I had a lot more pictures that were terrible.
Right.
And now what I've learned, with eye tracking and all these wonderful things that these cameras have is that I can use two buttons on the back of my camera to get what I need. I can, as long as I'm not moving around and they're not
Hmm.
moving around, I can recompose and get a lot more keepers. But it's that technology that's helped me. The lenses I'm pretty consistent with. I don't think I've changed a lot,
Yeah.
nor have I changed um, with the times. There's a lot of I'm an editorial shooter. Just
Mm.
that's how I consider myself. I want people to see what it really looks like.
Yeah.
going to go to see Youngblood, I want people to know what Youngblood looks like.
Yeah.
Um, I'm not a lens modifier. I'm
Hmm.
not using filters. I'm not using a lot of Lightroom stuff. There's nothing wrong with that either. I credit to those who can do it and
Hmm.
enjoy it.
Hmm.
It's just not for me. I'm
Yeah.
a little old school with that, and I feel if I'm going to shoot Mick Jagger, then you should know what Mick Jagger looks like. I
Yeah.
should be looking like Mick Jagger's in some, 2075 horror flick or whatever.
Yeah.
So I just I keep myself focused on the things that my camera can do
Hmm.
and the editorial part to it to ensure that I'm preserving that for anyone who wants to read my article and say, I want to go see Youngblood, this is what I'm going to get,
Yeah.
you know.
Hmm.
And again, nothing wrong with what others do. That's their prerogative to do it, and that's
Yeah.
their art. I feel this is mine.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, moving on to the next section, that just sits perfect. I'm going to ask you your workflow and your editing style. So that
Hmm.
would be your camera and your gear. Have you got a process that you do? Most people make sure that we talked about the cards and the faulty and stuff like that, but talk me through your process.
Yeah. So my process, I'm kind of a creature of habit now. Many years ago, I searched out mentors, and we all found
Hmm.
our mentors to help us with things. And um, I work with a lot of amazing photographers, but I found early on that um, the thing that I needed for me before anything else, before I gear or editing, is a sense of what's realistic for
Hmm.
me.
Hmm.
You've heard the band Steel Panther,
Yes,
right?
yeah, I've captured them. Yeah,
So
yeah,
Steel
photographed them.
Panther,
Yeah,
their bassist is named his name's Joe Lester, and Joe is an
right.
amazing guy. And Joe was one of my early mentors, and I used to reach out to him a lot, and we'd talk about photography, and he'd look at some of these pictures and go, "God, man, it's so out of focus. What happened there?"
Mm,
And it wasn't negative; it was just
yeah,
he was calling out these things to me for me to be able to realize that you have a lot more talent. You just need to learn what you're
yeah.
doing.
Hmm.
Um, and so once I started to realize it's not about what I like, it's about what the people I'm doing the work for, the band, the fans,
Hmm.
not necessarily what gets me off.
Hmm.
And so then what I did was I started to, work in Lightroom, and I'd get my photo cards, I'd bring them back, and I'd go through Photo Mechanic, and
Hmm.
I would sort my photos and cull them quickly. About 800 pictures, 1,000 pictures, I'd cull them down to whatever I needed to get rid of the rest, and then I'd import them into Lightroom. And what I did was over a period of years, I came up with a preset for most of my stuff now, where it'll do a lot of my edits before I even do anything.
Hmm.
And so I'll upload it. It'll take these effects into account.
Hmm.
And then we got introduced to, this noise reduction stuff,
Yeah.
right? And all of us got, where we were doing adjustments to luminance and texture and masking. That what happened was we were given these tools, and so I had to learn those.
Hmm.
Do you want to use a Lightroom denoiser, or do you want to use, like, I use DxO,
Yeah.
which works for me.
Hmm. Hmm.
And you have to be selective about certain things. And so, um, what I started to find out, which is, denoising is great if you take good pictures.
Yeah.
You still have to take sharp pictures to get, the denoise. If you take a really blurry picture, it's not going to fix that. And in fact, it makes it artifactually very bad.
Hmm.
So, and then you start learning that, right? So I go from taking my cards, uploading them quickly, culling through Photo Mechanic,
Hmm.
uploading again into Lightroom, and then denoising where necessary. And then I put music on,
Yeah.
right? At that point.
Hmm.
And so I'm going to start editing at night, and I bought a turntable, got a turntable recently. I just throw a record on it, and I just, it's a process for me now. I just listen, and if it's someone that I'm shooting that I have an album where I can listen to it digitally, so be it. But I'll I'll just start playing around with photos.
Hmm.
And I try to do it quickly, but I know what settings I want to adjust on every photo. And typically it's going to be color, color gradients or white balance or cropping,
Hmm.
whatever. And I'll just kind of go picture by picture and I'll adjust and star them along the
Hmm.
way. And then I go back I take a break and then usually I'll get back up in the morning and I'll just finalize it and I'll send them off to wherever they're going.
Right. Yeah.
Um, but we could take 800 pictures and have 20 keepers, that
Yeah.
are really good. And then you have a bunch that are, if you had time to work on them, so be it, you would. But, that's kind of my process. And it's different, if I'm working for house and I have to come home quickly, I abbreviate that. I'm like, I'm going to go through and find 6 pictures for social media right now. That's all I'm
Yeah.
going to work. And then I'll come back tomorrow and I'll do the rest of the set. But typically that would work for me. Sometimes I do on-site stuff if they want it, like, hey, can you get it uploaded before you leave? And I'll take my laptop and I'll do this. But I'd
Yeah.
rather not,
No, I know.
because I just don't like working. Like, I'm not a laptop person. My eyes are not that good, and I have a really nice setup here,
Hmm.
so I can work a lot more efficiently if I just get home. And so um, typically, my first three, I'll get a few arena shots, and then I just jump in the car, come right home, and I start work,
Yeah.
on, and I'm
Hmm.
able to turn those around quickly. But everyone has a different process, and it takes time as a photographer who's learning this craft to understand what their culling process is, um, what steps they want to take and in what order.
Hmm.
I think I've ordered them in a way that makes me most efficient.
Hmm.
Although I've talked to other photographers who do it completely the opposite of me,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
that works for them.
Hmm.
So
Yeah. It's five images I've asked you to look at. They don't have to be your best shots. They're just stories behind them. There's something that something means something to you.
yeah,
Technically, they could be great. Technically, they're not. Because sometimes that's quite the fun part of it. Okay.
so Rolling Stones. So this shoot was interesting for me because as you know, it's very hard to shoot the Rolling Stones.
Yeah.
Um, and I was told right away that it's only major news publications. And so I was doing some work for a gentleman out here who was he's a producer that did a lot of work for was Mike Hutchins from NXS. Um,
Right.
and so I was talking to him during this interview, and he goes, "Well, I know someone in the band,
Right.
and if you're interested, I can hook you up." And I'm like, you just don't. I don't want to hear this because this is just going to make me wild if it doesn't work out. So the next day he calls me and he goes, "Matthew, here's what I need you to do. Take this phone number down." And he gave me a phone number. He goes, "I need you to call this phone number. Let them know what you need. They're going to take care of you." Right.
Hmm.
And I'm like, and he gave me a name. So I called the phone number. And the phone number was it was for like the Beverly Hills Hotel or something like this. And they go, "Beverly Hills Hotel, how can I help?" I said, "Can I please speak to this person?" And he goes, "Hold on, please." And I get transferred. And this woman answers and she goes, "Yes, how can I help?" And I said, "Hey, my name's Matthew. I'm with the Vinyl District. And I was asked to call by this person."
Hmm.
And she goes, "You were?" And she's paused and she starts laughing and she goes, "Oh, so what do you need?" And I said, "Well, I'm just looking for a photo pass. I want to come see the Stones." And she goes, "You know who you're talking to, don't you?" I said, "No idea." Because I thought I was getting punked. I thought this was just a big
Yeah.
joke. She goes, "Well, I'm a mixed publicist, and we're here at the hotel getting ready, and you're actually bothering me now." And I think she was joking with me. And I
Hmm.
said, "Ma'am, I didn't mean to bother you. I was just told to call. This is who told me to call,
Hmm.
right?" And she starts laughing. She goes, "I'm just playing with you." She goes, "We get you taken care of." And that's how
Yeah.
I got my photo pass, right? I get off the phone, I call this guy back, and he's just laughing. He goes, "I knew that would happen, and we just wanted to have some fun with you." And so this was the opening song when where I could try to get at least three of them into the the three of the count
Right.
um, into this photo. And there was about 90,000, 80 to 90,000 people in this stadium. And I was the only photographer from a publication of my size. Everyone else
Right.
was, Vogue and, Billboard and all that stuff. And it was just me. And it was probably one of the most exciting things I've ever done because when you turn around at that, they have a catwalk. When you turn around and
Mhm.
look back, it's just overwhelming. I thought Metallica was overwhelming. This one overwhelmed me. And
Yeah.
it was probably one of the funnest shows I've ever done because you're walking among legends now,
Yeah.
and not everyone gets a chance to do this. So the story on how I got to do it was super fun. It was super exciting to actually shoot it. And I got a lot of good shots from the end of the board, the little catwalk that they had. And they gave me some good seats at the end to just
Mhm.
enjoy the show, which I did. And it was fun. Good time.
Yeah. Yeah. I was actually at BST Hyde Park in London, 2022, that I got to be down there, but I didn't get an official pass. But like you say, with your magazine publication, it was mostly agencies that was getting it.
Mhm.
Um, However, like I mentioned, to the PR was quite sympathetic with me, but I didn't get what happened to you, to you. But it was just nice being in the environment. It's an experience. The Rolling Stones. I
Yes.
was there. I got to watch the full show. I was allowed to go out into the crowd and be in the environment with my camera, which was it was just as good, to be fair.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, it's a lovely picture. I mean, I know about the runway as well because I couldn't believe how fit Mick Jagger was.
Mhm.
I was just blown away by his activity. Um, and the fact that physically you're having to sing, and it's quite wonderful. I just love the fact that you've got the main three at the moment are still in the band, and just in the drummer on the right hand side, and a little musician down to the
Mhm.
left as well. Had you be on ladders, was it, or were you just standing?
No, there was no, you know what? It's lucky for me.
Hmm.
I did have a little stool
Right.
available,
Okay. Yeah.
but I didn't even think I needed to use it because it wasn't I was able to get my arms on top of the catwalk, so
Hmm.
I felt like I was in a good spot.
Yeah. Hmm. I mean, I love lines. I love composition. I like negative space as well. When you were touching about like to getting the full bit in and just shooting, because a lot of people would probably just go for Mick Jagger and then do
Hmm.
them individually as well. And it's for me, it's it's great. I love how Mick Jagger's always with his fingers. He's pointing
Yep.
down. He's in that
Well,
mode.
that was my Martin. That was my hope is that I could get all three of them. I wish
Yeah.
all of them were tack sharp, and it's just harder to do when
Hmm.
Mick's 8 feet ahead of them,
Yeah.
walking down the catwalk, and they're just standing back, on stage. But I figured that was going to give me. It was going to be the best I could do,
Hmm.
and I was able to get them in the same photo, that was like you talked earlier about what's the goal. That was
Yeah.
really my goal. If I could figure out a way to get at least the three of them in a shot, then I would.
Yeah. Hmm. Yeah. Because they've all been with the band from pretty much from the beginning.
Yep.
And as they're aging gracefully as well, they're not bothered. They're just, and the fact that they're still doing it in their 80s
Hmm.
says a lot. Well, late 70s, 80s as well. It's just phenomenal. Whereabouts was this again? Sorry. Whereabouts was it? What venue was it?
This was probably 3 years ago. Their
3 years
last
ago.
their last tour,
Right.
uh,
Okay.
the Diamonds, whatever that tour
It's
was.
probably the same tour. Well, obviously, this because it was 2022 that I covered them. So that's what's 4 year ago. Um, so it probably be the same. It's probably just fitted in that as well, part of their
Yeah.
tour. because I'm just looking at what costumes they're wearing, and I think that's the same
Yeah,
thing, Don. But they do take a break and then get changed. And like yourself, just to even watch the Rolling Stones and be in that environment just meant a lot to me as well.
yeah,
And it's quite, it's like the whole point of this is capturing a moment in time. And as we're all getting older and they're getting older, because I'm a big Beatles fan as well, and I've not shot Paul McCartney or Ringo yet. So it's again, it would be something special for me.
yeah.
But no, it's wonderful. Just let's go into your second one that we've decided to look at. The Alarm, which is Mike Peters.
Yeah.
He also fronted Big Country for a little bit as well.
Yep.
Um,
So this picture was there was a small 80s festival on the beach a number of years ago.
okay.
And this was, I think, when Mike was, he'd gone through a lot of his treatments,
Hmm.
and that particular guitar he was using, they were auctioning off that day.
All right.
So you could, donate to his charity, and then they would give that away.
Mm.
And I met him just briefly. He was talking to Richard Blade, I think, or something, and um, they were talking side stage, and I got a chance to just say hi, and because I've followed the Alarm and Big Country, when I was
Yeah.
12,
Right.
listening to those
Yeah.
songs, 68 Guns, and
Hmm.
and all the different other songs, and um, so when I got a chance to take this picture, this was the one I kind of thought, kind of in my mind, it's who he was.
Yeah.
He was
Hmm.
passionate about his music and his family and all of that, and it just kind of captured what I needed. So um, and obviously he's passed now, and
Mm.
and it means even more to me because I got an opportunity to, interact a slight bit with him,
Hmm.
and listen to some of these songs that I grew up with, in kind of a unique way. Um,
Mm.
and a lot of people, he's not the Alarm, and they're not the biggest names, but
No.
but for me they are,
Yeah.
and I recently, they're releasing, the Alarm is releasing another album. It's a kind of I don't know what it's going to be, but I reached out to the publicist, and they're going to send me the vinyl copy of it
Oh wow.
to review,
Hmm.
which I think would be super cool, because it's going to have a lot of B-sides and other types of things that they've
Yeah.
done. But I just the music that he did, the way he wrote,
Hmm.
and how he stood for what he stood for. It was I'm not it's different than what you two did
Yeah.
early on, but they
Hmm.
were, they had a lot of protest songs, and they had songs about their country and what they were fighting for, and
Hmm.
I thought that was great. And
Yeah.
so he's got a special place in my heart for sure.
Yeah. I remember when they first started, they did big blonde spiky hair.
Hmm.
And I was at that age where I was, I, there was a lot of bands that I was into. I was mainly Depeche Mode. I'm a big Depeche Mode fan. But all these different musicians, especially Alarm, there's a band called King that I quite like. And they're very similar. Big Country. But for thing for Mike Peters, it's just the fact that his strength, his passion, and how he kept going, and no matter what hurdle that he just he just kept going, and all the his illnesses that he managed to get
Yeah.
battle through, and he's like you said, his music pulled him through, and it's still with us today. Like how we take pictures, we've captured that moment in time.
Hmm.
Um, I love that guitar as well. I mean, whoever's got that, I'm
Yeah.
sure it'd be. And can you imagine just even that image next to the guitar as well? Just having that image as well would be quite
Yep.
cool as well. Um, but I covered a lot of 80s, and unfortunately, I never got a chance to photograph them. There was opportunities for me, and through the magazine, like you say, but I just at the time it was just I could never had the time to go and to do it. I know that his wife had struggled through some battles herself, so they supported each other.
Yeah.
Um, but no, it's a lovely touching image, and it's just I love you can just the way he's holding his guitar as well, you know,
Yeah.
and you can see by his expression in his face, and he's loving it.
Yep.
It looks quite well in that image as well. Um, but I just always remember him having really spiky hair when he first started. And I remember when they first started, I thought, wow, what kind of band's this? But they're very similar. I can see why he helped out Big Country for a while. Very
Hmm.
similar in the music as well. No, it's a wonderful picture. Is there any reason why you went portrait and didn't do your normal, like,
I did this one this way because I just wanted to frame up specifically that
right,
guitar.
yeah,
I felt that I have a number of pictures that are different,
uh-huh,
but I just felt that the guitar was the
it
shot
shows,
for me and
yeah,
his face. I mean, I'd
mm,
love for it not to have the microphone in there, but at the same point, he was doing something particular with his strings with that
hmm,
head.
yeah.
So I figured that's how I do it.
I think it still works even with the mic there as well. I think it just adds to it that
Yeah,
because he then became just a soloist, really, didn't he? It was just it's still the alarm, but it was mainly just Mike Peters.
yeah.
Um, I don't know what the other band members and where they were and what they're doing, um, but no, it's a wonderful shot. Equalizer, is that significant in any of there? Is that just
I think it had to do with what they were doing at the time for his foundation and how
okay?
they were raising money. And I think this got the symbols that he had and the equalizer
Ah,
was he customized it for that.
right,
So I believe that's what that was for.
right, yeah. No, it's wonderful. Yeah, I like that one as well. So let's go to the next one, which is this is a band that I'd like to have shot, and they were touring not long ago there over here, and
So
unfortunately,
this
Poison.
particular this was done, I think it was 2022, right after the pandemic was starting to break up. This was the stadium tour with Motley Crue and Def
Mhm.
Leppard and Poison and I think it was Joan Jett and
Yeah.
whoever else. And the reason I love this picture, there's a backstory to it, not of this shot, but of him. So CC DeVille, many years ago, when I was probably 21, 22 years old. I used to get my hair cut at the mall. I didn't care. No one cared. That's what I did.
Hmm.
And the person that cut my hair, we still see her on occasion, and it's really cool. But she told me, she goes, "Hey, I know you're into music. One of my clients is CC DeVille." Now this is at a mall right, in
Right.
Morris,
Yeah.
California, and they were, it was 20, 20. What year was this? 1992.
Right.
And Poison had, they've been around since 86 or whatever, but they're still very popular.
Mm.
And he was having his hair cut and he used to have the really bleached blonde hair and he's much, much more a different look than he is now.
Yeah.
And so I went back one day and she gave me a napkin and it was it said, "Dear Matthew, appreciate you being a fan. Let Rosanna do whatever she wants to your hair, CC DeVille." Right? And she gave this to me, and I still have it in one of my books. Um,
Right.
that was just so neat that a normal guy that and he had a lot of demons, and this guy had all
Yeah.
sorts of trouble, and he took the time just to do that on a mall napkin from the food court, and it's still one of my prized possessions. I've loved Poison,
Mm.
seeing as they played a lot here in their early days. And he just said had so much energy and his expression in this photo, they were like this in
Mm.
every photo. He played to the photographers. He wanted to have fun. And this is kind of another example of I tried to get the stage was so big that I
Hmm.
just wanted to, because he was staring at me, I figured I'm gonna, you know, kind of crop it a little differently and get the guitar in there and so forth.
Hmm.
Um, but it was just I like these kind of pictures because they, in many cases as a photographer we're not interacting a lot with the musicians, but in
Hmm.
some cases they play to you.
Yeah.
um, this case, he did this pretty much for every photographer, and he was having so much fun. And in turn, I had fun. It was just
Yeah,
fun for me. That but I for the three songs that I had, I knew that I was going to get my money's worth. And he was primarily the driver. That obviously Brett Michaels does that too,
yeah.
but not he's truly a character. And so the expression on his face is exactly how he is. And he's from the East Coast, I think, and he's got kind of a unique accent. And I've met him
Mhm.
once, and I've met other people in Poison too. But he's just one of my favorites, and just played well. And I just thought this was a cool shot. So
Yeah, definitely is. I mean, I love the angle that you've took it, um, uh, because angles and straight lines and different things is what I love as well. I think I mean, the guitar's nice and straight, but it's just perfect. You've got it
mhm.
aligned perfectly because if you look at the background and the stage, but no, the stage is not in that direction, but you can feel him like in the moment with his guitar, and uh, you're looking up and taking his picture. I mean, he's color coordinated as well. I mean, I like how he's got everything's purple. His glasses are purple. He's got his corset top hat.
Yep.
All the plectrums. I've never seen the plectrums in a guitar like that before. Um,
Yeah. And the one thing, Martin, that I tried, it's just me. I edit. Not everything is like this, but I try to when I look at this photo and I remember how I edit.
hmm
I like leading lines, his leg
Yeah.
on the bottom left. I like
hmm
I try to, make sure that the space on both sides is equal. So it's not
hmm
like there's lots of empty space. And,
Yeah.
sometimes shots like this allow for it. Sometimes they don't.
Mm.
This was just one of those it was nice because this was in daylight. And you got a really clean shot with very low noise,
hmm
and he was just kind of hamming it up and playing along, which is much better than when we got to Motley Crue. But
Mm.
this was a lot of fun.
Yeah. Yeah, because I remember that tour. I think they did come over here to Scotland. I just never, I wasn't available and I couldn't go to it, because they were on my radar, because I had did some research on it. Um,
Hmm.
it's almost a bit like Slash from Guns N' Roses
Yeah.
in a way, doesn't he? He's got that although Slash tends to be more static, I don't think, but he's actually in in emotion, and he's giving that proper rock. He's
Hmm.
that little point where he's down at the bottom of the guitar and he's feeling the emotion. I know that I'm doing it, but yeah, yeah, it's wonderful. He has got lots of hair as well, which I'm a wee
Yes.
bit kind of jealous of, because I'm lacking in it. But no, it's actually great. Um, it's perfectly exposed as well because you can see his eyes. Um,
Yeah.
I'm just wondering because that's a thing when I take pictures and you see sunglasses because sometimes you can actually see the crowd as well, and then you can see
Hmm.
yourself in it, which is
Yeah.
pretty cool as well. No, it's brilliant. Yeah, and the purple lights work well with the purple and the color combination because I think that sometimes people would tend to go to black and white with a lot of the rock images, but that works color.
Hold
Uh,
on one second, Martin, if you would. One
yeah,
second,
yeah,
please.
no problem.
Hello. Yeah. He should be here. He should be there anytime. You rerouted him. He's not even getting his lunch. He just started. You should be pulling up anytime now. My pleasure. Sorry about that. Let's continue.
Okay, no problem. So, yeah, no, it's a wonderful shot. I have to capture that. I mean, is Poison still together? Are they still
They
touring?
are, and they're well, they're not together, but they're Brett Michaels tours himself, and then they
Right.
were they were working specifically on getting another tour for 27, and I
hmm
think that's what they're working on right now. But they have Brett Michaels is having some issues with these guys because he wants to have more money than them, so they're
Right.
kind of
Okay.
fighting him for it, as many do. But
Yeah.
I hope that they do. I just saw Ricky Rocket
Mm,
and his little band play locally, and they were really good. They played a bunch of Poison stuff, and he was very nice.
mm,
I'd love for it to them to tour again.
yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Because that's a thing that I don't shoot at many rock bands. I have, but I'm interested in getting into that now. Um, Especially if I go across to Norway for Tones of Rock. They've It's a bit like the festival over here in the UK called Download, which is
mhm,
coming up. It's based on a lot of the rock, punk, indie type of music. They have got a little bit for 80s as well, and a little bit of, could we say, pop.
mhm.
They've got a little stage now, just open it up. I think they have to really.
Okay.
But yeah, that's one. Oh, sorry, a wee bit of just on coffee there. Right. So let's go on to, we just touched on 80s there, and you've got an image here, which I've actually I've photographed them a few times. 1 second, I get this up. Orchestral maneuvers in the dark, OMD. Tell me about
Yeah.
this shot.
So this is an actually fun story.
Mm,
So OMD was not a headliner, but they played at a festival here called Cruel World, and
right.
this was in the Rose Bowl was right next to this, and they had about 50,000 people here.
Mm-hmm,
So I interviewed Andy about a month and a half before, and I asked him, I said, "Hey, if you guys need a tour photographer for your show, I'd love to do it." And he's like, "All right, that'd be great. We don't have anyone that's coming out with us, so
mm-hmm,
we'll get you in touch with our tour manager. We'll get it set up." So we worked through all that. And the day of the show, the tour manager texts me and says, "We'd like you to meet us at such and such time. We're going to give you some rules of the road and
mm-hmm.
what we want, and you'll be able to shoot the entire set. But then we have some stage stuff we want you to do too. Please meet us." So the timing, Alison Moye was playing,
Okay.
and I'm like, oh, I can't miss, I don't want to miss that. She's never plays. It's like this is.
Yeah, I know.
I got one song from her before I had to go. And I walked over to the tent where they're doing some interviews and so on. They introduced me to the guys, and he pulls me aside and he goes, "Okay, you're going to shoot the whole set. And then when there's 3 songs left, I want you to come up here and you'll meet me. And then we really want is we want to get we're going to do you can get a couple stage shots, but then we want to get them bowing. And what they're
Right.
going to do is they're going to all step out into this ring. They're going to turn around and they're going to bow, and then you're going to get a bunch of shots with them in the crowd, the whole thing."
Mm,
I said, "Great." He goes, "You're going to stand on the drum riser. So you're going to get up and stand. As soon as the drummer comes down, you're going to get up and it's your space. You do what you need to do."
mm.
So with drummer, I think it's the third guy over.
Yeah, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I get up on the drum riser, and these guys forget everything they were supposed to do. Right? They're just all over the place, excited. And I got a bunch of shots, but this is one of the better ones that I could get.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I was so disappointed. I'm like, it's going to be okay, not a problem.
Mm-hmm.
And then, as a photographer, you walk away going, I didn't get what my they wanted. And
Mm.
I didn't have any way to change what they were doing because they weren't having it. They were out talking to crowd and throwing pics
Yeah.
and doing whatever. And then they all kind of exited, and it was just kind of a mess. So I texted the tour manager afterwards. I said, "Hey, I got a lot of stuff. I'm not sure if that last shot ended up the way I wanted to." And he kind of said LOL and whatever. So I move on and I'm doing other stuff. And then I'm about ready to get going. And I get a text from him. He goes, "Hey, the guys really want to talk to you about this photo." I'm like, "Oh shit. All right."
Mm-hmm.
So he goes, "Could you meet us at the trailer?" And there was a little trailer compound, had their name on it. So I walk over there, knock on the door, and they go, "Come on in." And it was the 4 of them. right? That was it. There was
Yeah.
nobody else there, not the tour manager, nobody. And Andy walks up and he gives me a hug and he goes, "Hey, we fucked that up." He goes, "We're sorry. That wasn't your fault. That was our fault. We were just so excited in the moment." He goes, "Your picture's great. It'll be just what we need." But
Yeah.
he goes, "That was us. And we just wanted to personally have you come over. We wanted to introduce ourselves again and thank you for your time here today." And it was just me
Yeah.
and the guys in a trailer, right?
Mm.
And it was just so special for me because I followed them. They're pioneers in this
Yeah.
industry long before most. And
Hmm.
they're just all so down to earth
Hmm.
people. And it was just nice that they wanted to say hi to me. I mean, I am who I am, and just to get
Hmm.
recognized was really cool. And we have a great relationship now. Whenever they come out, they always reach out to me and, "Hey, if you want to come out,
Brilliant.
what do you?" It's really nice. And again, to get a shot like this in front of 50, 60,000 people, it
Hmm.
just super energetic, super fun. It was really cool.
Yeah. Yeah. I
Yep.
mean, I've been on stage with them as well as the festival photographer as well, but then I never got asked to do that. But I can understand where that disappointment would kick in when
Hmm.
you've had that chat with everyone and you think because I know the image you'll be talking about. They'd either be either all together as a group kneeling down or standing so that they're looking at you with the crowd in the back. Or I have got a picture where they are together and they're kind of bowing towards the crowd.
Hmm.
Um, I think I did capture something like that because I know that's what they do. But Andy McCluskey, um, what a dancer! He likes his kicks about. He kind of reminds me of the guy out the skids. Um, very very similar. But I was listening to OMD today. Funny enough, in my van, twice I put it on. Enola Gay, what a song!
Yeah.
And I always remember when I'm in the pit when they play how good it is. Just the vibration and how because it's electronic music, but he uses
Hmm.
his guitar, he uses his keyboards, and then the drummer. Um, but it's just phenomenal. And then for me, I think you've captured the moment because you can clearly see the crowd. You can see them all
Yeah.
in awe. And they're all like, because like you say, they're in the moment and they've totally, like they say, they've
Yep.
forgot what they were supposed to do. Because as photographers, we do that in the pit. We kind of forget, oh, what song's that? All right, okay, there you go. And can you remember what you've captured sometimes? Sometimes I can. Um, Depends on the moment. But I love this shot, Matthew, because you can you can see it. Everything's sharp, everything's clear. It wasn't really a good day that day, was it? It was just weather-wise, you can see it's quite cloudy and
It
overcast.
was raining. I
Was it?
mean, that's the funny part. That's a lot of that out there is kind of hazy. There's like little clouds floating around and stuff.
Right,
So,
okay. Because the
but
stage
the
looks wet
whole
as
the
well.
whole crowd it was wet, and then there was a lot of reflections off of the deck where they were playing. So
Mm-hmm.
it was good. I enjoyed it a lot, and
Aye.
it was definitely a moment I won't forget.
Yeah, I mean, it's just being able to be with a band like that and helping them out and taking pictures, and
Yep.
you captured quite a lot. Because I hold fondly the moments I've been on stage with like OMD and Howard Jones, and
Yeah.
quite a funny thing. Talking about Howard Jones, Nick Beggs out of
Hmm.
Kajagoogoo was touring with him,
Yeah.
and I didn't know who it was initially, and I'm taking pictures at the back near the drum riser. And it wasn't Howard Jones that was on stage. I can't remember who it was, but it was an 80s band. But Nick Beggs comes up, he's hilarious. And he's doing
Hmm.
this towards me and having a wee go. And I've actually got one of my colleagues went and took a picture of me and Nick Beggs. And I'm like that on my camera, and Nick Beggs is like,
Oh,
it's,
nice.
it's quite funny. But I used to love being around all these 80s bands because that was my childhood growing up with them. And I still
Yep.
follow Nick Beggs, and I photographed Nick Beggs and Howard Jones together on that because Nick Beggs wore a kilt because he was in Scotland, and it's hilarious. I don't know if you follow him on Facebook, but he's just
Oh, I do. Yeah.
oh, it's hilarious. He was doing one. He was doing GPT the other day there, and I couldn't stop laughing. He's such a lovely guy, absolutely funny. But no, it's
Hold on one second. I'm sorry. Sorry
no,
about
you're
this.
okay.
Uh, what was Matthew? Hey, what's up? It should be there in a minute. We just picked it up. Like I said, our goal was to get there as quickly as we could. We just had to go over to Cold for our drivers and literally.
That one,
He should
that
probably.
one, that one, that one, and then the last one.
It's not.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, it's okay, mate. It's okay. So that's your fourth image. That's OMD, and that's a pretty special one. I mean, it means quite something to me as well because I like it when people share images of bands that I grew up with and I enjoyed. And I've met Andy and the lads as well. They are lovely guys. I've met
Mm-hmm.
them backstage. It'd be such a joy to work with them, but that's a great one. So your fifth image, Butcher Babes. Um, I love this
Yeah.
picture. It's so rock and roll.
So, so this picture was interesting. So there was a festival
Uh-huh.
many years ago, and it was only out here. It was called Blackest of the Black.
Hmm.
Okay. And it was headlined by Glenn Danzig. Okay. So when we got to this festival, it was up in this area up in the mountains. It was dirty and it was just wild.
Hmm.
And they told us right up front, Glenn's not going to allow you to take any photos of him. He has his own photographer, which is a good friend of mine. His name's Maurice, and he's a great guy. And so we had all these other bands. It was everyone you could possibly imagine in that genre, Combi Christ and Butcher Babies and
Hmm.
Venom. And it was just all these dark, old, bands. It was fun. And so um, we were having a lot of fun on this stage. And Carla Harvey here, what was interesting about it was she was playing to the crowd and doing different types of things. And the guy that I was next to was doing something, and then she did this. I'm like, oh my God, that's a perfect shot,
Yeah.
right? And they did just an amazing set where they were playing around and doing whatever. And I've met her before. She's super nice. I mean,
Hmm.
just the nicest person ever. And she's now, I don't know if you know this, she's the lead for Lords of Acid.
All right.
So,
Yeah.
so she's now touring with the Lords of Acid
Okay.
as I don't know what you call her, but that's what she's doing.
Mm.
And they were just so energetic and fun. They looked good. They sounded fantastic, and they played to the crowd and got everybody engaged and enjoyed themselves. And it just and you can tell like in this particular photo, it's a nice kind of cropped in photo. It's very little noise.
Hmm.
It was kind of a little overcast that day. And it was one of those photos that you rarely get where you get the emotion of that,
Mm.
and you can pull it off. And I was fortunate to get that. And she loved the shot. She actually has commented on it before and
Yeah.
used it on her socials and things. But it was fun.
Yeah. I mean, I've seen a few pictures of her. And like I said to you earlier on, I've been, she's been on part of my bucket list, and obviously I haven't been the opportunity, but um, you can even see that she's holding the mic. She's obviously in the emotion. Um,
Mhm.
and I've seen a lot of fingers and a lot of imagery. But I don't know whether that's because she's singing this particular song or she's seen someone or um,
I don't know. I think it was a very heavy song,
yeah,
and her and her partner were just all over the place. But I don't think she was doing it to any one person in
right,
particular. I think it was
yeah,
the song specifically.
the song.
I can't recall what song that was, but I just remember this. I'm like, wow, I saw, we always go back and we're calling photos and you hope you've got something
Yeah,
magical. And you're like, wow,
yeah, Yeah,
that was what we're, yeah.
stands out. I mean, it's very, very rock and very. For me, it is Butcher Babes. It's like for what their image and what she
Yep.
wants. I love her flowing hair, and it's very, very difficult to photograph ladies in music photography as well because they are quite like because they say they enjoy the photograph. A lot of them are
Hmm.
quite fussy about how we portray them in images. Um, there's a loads of um, there's one particular that I photographed and she reached out to me. She said the pictures were great, but I had to think about what ones I was sharing because I think she was upset about how her face was looking in some of the images. Um, and it's something that I always think about when I'm sharing. Certainly, you can get away with it a lot of guys, but I think with for some females, it's a bit difficult at times.
Sure.
But obviously, she's a rock chick,
Hmm.
and that's what you're trying to show. You can see the people in the background as well, and I like the angle of it as well. Um, so you can just you can just see guitar and just on the left hand side as well, just coming
Yeah.
through. Yeah, yeah. No, it's a wonderful picture. I mean, editorial wise as well, it's something I'm just thinking my magazine, obviously on the right or the left, you could have a lot of writing and different things, and
Hmm.
it's perfect that way. And a full magazine feature. Um, but yeah, that's absolutely wonderful. And then she said that she likes it. Have you has she been using it in her uh, Facebook pages or any other places?
No, I for this particular shot, and what I try to, as I'm as I'm doing my work, I try to, if it's editorial work, I let that process play first, like with the vinyl district or honeypot or whatnot.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then what I do is I'll supplement that right after that once that gets going, and
Mm-hmm.
I'll, reach out and tag different people, and I try to work with the publicists a lot
Right. Okay.
because folks who are nice to me and take care of me are great, and then I
Mm-hmm.
want to try to be able to provide them like, hey, these are great photos that you guys can use too.
Yeah.
um, and so Facebook or Instagram or even on X sometimes.
Mm.
um, but she found this actually on Facebook, and then she reached out to me in person or in a message and
Yeah,
said, hey,
that
I
happens
really,
quite a lot. Yeah,
yeah.
that's happened to me
And
quite a few times.
so it was kind of nice.
Yeah, definitely.
So this, I think I started it's great because we're kind of near the end of this, or we're getting close. But when I
Mm-hmm.
started the interview, I told you about my first shoot. This was actually my first shoot
Okay.
um, in the photo pit, and um, it was just one of those pictures that you rarely get, and it definitely didn't deserve to get this picture um,
Yeah.
when um, I took it because I didn't know what I was doing, to be quite honest with you. But that's John Moyer of Disturbed.
Mm-hmm.
And he did. There's three or four shots that he took. I was able to take of him where you're just like the eye is tack sharp, and it's
Yeah.
just like everything lined up appropriately. If the leading line from his leg, and
Mm-hmm.
then the base at the top, and his eyes are just like kind of spooky, and he's pointing right at me. And I have a whole bunch of other ones that aren't very good, but I
Mm-hmm.
got one or two of this one and another one where he's kneeling down that he's staring at me.
Yeah.
And I was just like for my first ever pit experience, this is pretty cool.
Yeah.
Um, and I've done a little bit of work for them over the years. I've obviously shot them for the publication, and I've talked to John a bunch of times, and they're always very nice and have me out whenever they're touring, um, which is cool. But they're just regular. They're from Chicago and just nice folks.
Mm-hmm.
But I just love this photo, and it's probably one of my all-time favorites, to be honest with you, because I just it's not perfect,
Mm-hmm.
and sometimes our work isn't, but just I
Yeah.
love the eyes, and I think that it's just so cool.
Yeah. The light. on his face is really good. It's
Hmm.
almost like a spotlight. Yeah, it is really because you can see where you have focused on his face because his fingers obviously got a little bit of motion blur, but he's moving his hands, so it would be very difficult to get that tack sharp as well. But just it's the depth of field in it as well, and the leading
Yep.
lines, the colours. Again, it works because a lot of people would go black and white, wouldn't they? Um, because of the colour and different things. Just the red. Yeah, it's a wonderful shot, and like you say, it's your very one of your first ones, which would install that passion to do more.
Hmm.
Um, because I think that's where it comes from. Um, but no, it's I've never photographed that band. I know they were over here in Scotland. Was it this year? I think it was this year or last year. And I was thinking about covering them, but I think there was a wee bit of a controversy over the
Hmm.
some photographers shooting them. I don't know whether they'd said something or said something in the press at the time. And there was a lot of people, a lot of photographers saying, "No, we're not going to photograph them
Yeah.
because of what they said." I think it was over here in the UK. I don't know, but no, it's a wonderful shot just to add in, and it's quite good that you mentioned that because it's one of the very first ones.
Yeah. It was, and it's just something that I look back to and say this is kind of the like we started off the conversation about what where was that those moments where you started getting
Mm-hmm.
passionate about what you're doing, and
Mm-hmm.
it was the same thing. But what I was saying was these moments, the special moments that you get, when you start off in the pit and you're doing this work, um, they multiply over time, and
Mm-hmm.
you have you like I probably have lots of special memories. You've shared some with me today, and I have with you.
Mm-hmm.
But it's why we love doing this stuff.
Yeah.
We work on things that nobody else gets a chance to work on ever, and who gets a chance to say, like I went out, I shot Depeche Mode. I've shot them a bunch of times, but the
Mm-hmm.
last tour, I was the only one at one show. It's just me.
Oh wow.
Um,
Yeah.
and because they had 3 nights and the press was one night, and then I couldn't go, and she called me. She goes, "We'd really like to have you out. Would you mind coming this day?" And I was by myself.
Mm-hmm.
And to be in those types of environments are special,
Yeah.
and I truly hold those things dear because at the end of the day, this is passion for us.
Yeah.
There's money to be made in some cases. You're doing work for editorial things that are you're sharing,
Mm-hmm.
but they go into your memory banks, right?
Mm-hmm.
And to me, that's what it's all worth, and why I love this so much. So,
The industry. How has music photography changed since you started?
um, music photography for me has changed quite well. Let me not say for me, music photography has changed a lot,
Mm-hmm.
in this sense. I think back when, and I'm not a dinosaur, nor are you, but
Yeah.
we grew up in a time where you had to pay your dues. You put your time and effort and energy in to learn, develop, and your craft. You work with mentors. You were told the real deal, and you learn from that.
Yeah.
And I think what's happened now is there's a lot more people in the channel that are trying to learn this. And first of all, I love that. I think it's
Mm-hmm.
great that it's the new generation of photographers, different art, um, different types of things that are really exciting for people.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I think that um, I think the way it's changed is that I think that a lot of what we learn, pit etiquette,
Mm-hmm.
um, all the different things that go into preparing for a show, editing,
Mm-hmm.
are kind of an afterthought now to many. It's more about access than it is about art, in my
Mm-hmm.
opinion.
Yeah.
And again, I'm not a hater. I want people to express their art however they choose to express it, whatever ways they like doing it. But I think that, right now a lot of it's not earned.
Mm-hmm.
And I put a lot of time into this to get where I am. And I know that there's a lot of people too that do.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I also go into photo pits where people don't have the right gear. They don't understand what the etiquette is.
Hmm.
And I think that that lacks right now. And part of it is because there's not a lot of people who are willing to mentor other folks
Yeah.
and teach them. You know, Matthias was great with that, that he was a mentor for many of us
Hmm.
and helped in many ways that are unmeasurable. And
Yeah.
that group, the Shooting the Rock Stars group, created a bunch of photographers that are really well known and prominent and top of class.
Yeah.
And there's just nothing like that right now. And
Yeah.
and and so I think that's how it's kind of changed.
Hmm.
But again, art today, photography today is very different than it was 10 or 15 years ago.
Hmm.
And I'm definitely open to what people are doing right now with lots of different techniques and editing styles. Um, just because it isn't for me doesn't mean it's not for somebody else. And
Yeah.
ultimately, the bands are the ones that have to determine what they want, you
Hmm.
know. And if they like this, then that's really cool. Um, but I think, you know, right now it's there's just so many people in the channel to get to a point where, you know, you could sustain yourself from a financial perspective or you know, you could get gigs and do different types of things.
Hmm.
Um, I'm not sure if the time's being put in that's necessary right now,
Yeah. Hmm.
comparable to years ago.
I think a lot, I see a lot on Instagram, a lot of self-promotion. Look what I do,
Hmm.
this is my job, and they're fast generating images, and they're being very creative with it. There's nothing wrong with it, but it's almost that that's what they want to do. They want to just go and tour with a band. They want to do specifically music photography, which there is money to be had at it, but I don't think there's a lot of money in it unless
Hmm.
you really work your craft. Um, and I do find as well with the mirrorless and the technology, it's a lot easier than it was. Because I see a lot of people using their LCD screen as well, and touch
Oh yeah,
phones, and the hands are up raised. Um, people hogging the corner or a position, um, not really knowing what to do, and that's why we touched on the fact that when we go to a lot of these gigs, we know each other as a big bit of a community. I'm getting to know a lot of the younger ones now, and I think through this, I'm hoping to reach out to them and chat to them and see what they say as well, because I like to get
hmm,
different opinions on it. Because like we talk about
yeah,
the Gen X or whatever you want to call it, as we grow and technology gets better, editing gets better, and a lot of people are using these crystals and different
yeah,
lens things as well, and double exposures. And I'm a creative. I like all that to a point, but I'm old school as well when it comes to like. So I look back to like Jim Marshall, for instance, Bob Gruen, and all these type of photographers back in the day. Especially, I'm a big Jim Marshall fan. I just like his photography. I watched his documentary for the third time the other week there, and I'm in awe with his etiquette and how he does things.
yeah.
But do you feel music photography is a valued property? Valued, no, valued properly. Sorry, I can.
You know, I'll give you an example of something where I think it is, and
Hmm.
I'm proud of this, and I think um, it's an example of how I think it's evolving. So,
Hmm.
you know, you and I started off in a very particular place, similar reasons in some cases, different ones in others.
Yeah.
As I was coming up, you know, I had lots of folks in my network who would reach out and ask for advice. Hey, how do you do in this? This is really cool. How could I get involved? Um, and there's a guy, he was in my fraternity. His name's James Kaufman.
Hmm.
James was a videographer, and he just he loved what I was doing, and he reached out and said, "Hey, I'd love to be part of this publication." It was Honeypot, the first one we started, and I'd like to learn how to do this. And
Yeah.
I kind of gave him some thoughts, and he started to request shows and he started to get some shows. And I remember the first time he got like a big show like Corn, I think it was. He was super
Mhm.
excited, like, "Oh my God, this is amazing." This was probably back around 2019 or 20, before the pandemic,
Yeah.
and he was just so energetic. He'd listen. He was a sponge, and he's like, "Matt, I think I could do this." And I
Mm.
said, "Do what?" He goes, "I think I can make a career of this. I really do." And I'm like, "Well, be careful because this is a lot of my like Niels Lozauer and other people that I'm familiar with out here, and we've worked with together, and they've always been like, look, there's not a lot of money to be made in this anymore. We make the money on these old pictures, not the new ones."
Yeah.
But he felt he could do it, and
Mm.
over time he started to, he was doing the publication work, and then he got networked with the right people, and then he started doing these little tours and so on and so forth. And the other day, I get a call. I don't know, it's maybe similar time here.
Mhm.
And he's like, "Hey, Matt, it's James." I'm like, "Hey, what's up, man?" He goes, "It's really late here. It's like 3 in the morning." I'm like, "Where are you?" He goes, "I'm in Australia. I'm working." And I don't know who he was working with at that, some Memphis May Fire or some small band, like whatever he was
Mm.
doing. He goes, I needed you to be the first to hear this. I just got picked up. I'm going to be working with Motley Crue this fall,
Huh. Right.
right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, "Motley Crue, really?" And he goes, "Yeah, I'm touring the second part of their tour. Like I'm doing the part we're going to be in Southern California, and I'm going to have you out." And I'm like, "Wow." And it was, what was nice was it was kind of a full circle moment. He goes, "Matt, I'm just so thankful that, we've spent that time together and you helped push me and you believed in me and you gave me an opportunity to listen." And he goes, "I know it's not, what I told you I wanted to do um, wasn't necessarily clear all the time,
Mhm.
but now you see what I was trying to do. And I wanted to be a touring photographer and to do this."
Yeah.
And this is a guy that started just with really no experience in any of this stuff. And he's touring with one of the bigger bands out there now. And so to go back and answer the question, I think that there's a lot of talent out there that do take the time to
Mhm.
learn, practice, network, but ultimately the ones that are going to be successful are the ones that have good personalities. They're good people in general, and they work well with others.
Mhm.
He's a shining example of that. He's far better than I am now, right, in
Mhm.
terms of what he does.
Yeah.
It just has a different style than me. I'm who I am, and I'm really, I don't doubt my shortcomings, but I know what talent I have and where I want
Mhm.
to keep it focused. And he was able to do what he wanted to do,
Mhm.
and turn it into something that could be a career for him.
Yeah.
And so the evolution of photography right now is in the hands of folks like James,
Mm.
right? Who are, you know, learning, growing, developing, building relationships, and humble enough to understand at the end of the day why this is so important. Because there's a lot of photographers, and probably many just like I do, they're not fun to be around. They
No.
think they
Yeah.
own everything, the
Mhm.
space that you walk in, the air you breathe.
Yeah.
Um, and James is the exact opposite of that. He's humble, he's courteous, he's kind, but he's
Mm.
also very passionate and very focused.
Yeah.
And he's learned almost everything on his own. Outside of what we initially worked on together, he's taken that and ran with it. And I believe that there's a group of Jameses out there.
Mhm.
There's so many male and female photographers right now that are killing it,
Yeah.
out there touring,
Mhm.
photographers in arenas, and then also in publications. So I think it's heading in the right direction. The challenge with the photography now is this, that there's really no type of guardrails, or it's just everyone for themselves.
Mm.
And so they don't have what we had, and there's not really anything out there that's helping people with that. So
Yeah.
going to pit etiquette, how do you dress? How do you prepare? And I don't like that. I don't like that at all. I don't think it's helpful. And so what I've done is I've tried my best to mentor many. I have a number of mentors, mentees that I work with right now
Mhm.
who are doing really well. in this industry, and it's my way of giving back now because I've given what I can, and I
Yeah.
love what I do, and I'm going to continue to love it until I can't do it anymore. But
Mhm.
I think it's important to pass that on to other people so that they can love it, and
Yeah.
they can love it for their own terms. And so that's been one of my passion projects is to continue to mentor folks and get them, give them the toolkit that they need to be successful in the way that they want to be successful,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
that's for me, that's super fulfilling,
Yeah.
because, this is we work in a business that's tough and it's
Mhm.
time consuming and it takes away from your family and friends. And so to be able to give back and give joy to somebody else that they can do the same thing and create pictures and say, man, I had one of my for the vinyl district, one of our new contributors I'm working with, she got to go shoot Dave Matthews recently, and she was just
Right.
floored.
Mhm.
And she goes, I can't believe you got me in for this. I said, it's not me, it's you. It's
Yeah.
your work. It's not me.
That's right.
Trust me, I'm not shooting.
Mhm.
And so I think we're heading in the right direction. I just hope that we can get some more guardrails in place that can help other photographers who have that talent that's raw but just don't know how to develop it right
Yeah.
now.
Mhm. Yeah. I mean, I think obviously with the publication part of thing, that's the thing that I get great joy in when I apply for some passes for some people. And
Mhm.
they almost feel imposter syndrome or they get no confidence, think, oh, am I good enough to cover that? Of course, yeah.
Good.
And we all have to step in and cover those big acts as well. And like I did try and apply for a big festival for one of my contributors who Molly, who I've interviewed. She's quite young, up and coming, and she covers a lot of punk. Um, Unfortunately, we never got the pass, but like I said, we'll get the next one. And that I'm like yourself. I like to bring in and nurture and pass on any knowledge. And one of the reasons why I do this as well is just to pull every community together and to highlight some really talented photographers out there,
Mhm.
and to talk about our passion and what we love. Um, so I was going in reflection and getting near the end. If you'd stop shooting photography, any kind of photography tomorrow, what would you miss the most?
Uh, if I wasn't doing it,
Yeah, if you stopped shooting, if it had to stop.
to be quite honest, um, that's a great question, and I think it's one in which um, I think for me,
Hmm.
it's it's a um, it's a people thing for
Yeah.
me. I
Hmm.
enjoy being in the pit with my brothers and sisters. I enjoy
Yeah.
swapping stories and learning from other people. That's what it is for me. I
Yeah.
found that when I started doing work for arenas and other things, it was really work. There's not a
Yeah.
lot of that. You're just out doing work.
Mm.
So I think if I had to hang it up today, I mean, I love the energy, I love the excitement, I love the focus, I love all these things.
Hmm.
But I also believe that it's the relationships with my friends that I
Yeah.
built. It's a second family. Like
Hmm.
Steve Brazel, I mentioned, Steve's a
Yeah.
great friend of mine now.
Yeah.
He lives around the way. There's others in our group that are out here that I've learned from. And when I share a pit with them, we
Hmm.
swap stories, have a cold one, reminisce about things. We take pictures together, in the
Yeah, we
pits,
do as well. Yeah.
all that kind of stuff. It's all a lot of fun.
Hmm.
And so that's what I personally believe. And all the other stuff is great, taking the photos, editing, but for me it would be those relationships that I built over time that when you get a chance to break free from the reality of regular work and you
Hmm.
get to go and do something that most don't get to do,
Yeah.
we have that opportunity to share and develop and care, and and I think those are the relationships that I have that are the most special to me.
Yeah.
Um, Even right now we're talking. You've got the shirt on. Um,
Yeah. From
from
upstairs.
from back in the day. I
Yeah.
mean, we're all family still, even though we haven't met.
Hmm.
We're part of a larger group of people that care, And I think that that's the thing I miss the most.
Yeah.
I don't miss late night editing or hours upon hours on my feet,
Mm.
or any of that stuff. I think that'll be fine. But it's more about the anticipation of getting to the show and seeing your friends and preparing yourself for what you don't
Yeah.
know,
Mm.
and shooting text back and forth on Messenger and all that stuff. I think that's what I missed the most.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think I'm kind of missing Matthias's interviews as well, and I think that's maybe why I've started this because I
Hmm.
was like, I reflect on my previous job was um, quite a stressful job, and I
Hmm.
remember I stayed quite a distance from family, so I travelled quite a bit. So I would put his podcasts on the car, and I would obviously tag him in it and let him know I was listening to them, and I still listen to them yet, and I was just listening to your interview the other week there, just listening to that, just so I can catch up and just reflect on things like that, and it just lifted me, yeah, because a lot of times my passion dips, it goes up and down. I think sometimes I get a little bit of burnout because I think with my creative head, I've got so many ideas to come in. And like I say, I started this in 2018, 2019, and then the pandemic came in. I
Hmm.
should have kept it going. And there's never to say, oh, I've started it again. So I'll always pass that knowledge, sorry, that advice on to others. And it's one of the questions I've got on reflection. When we talk about advice, what advice would you give to someone stepping into their first pit or taking this up?
Yeah. So I think, my advice, if I was offering this to somebody who came to me and said, look, how do I get started in this industry? What do I do?
Hmm.
I would say the following. I think, consistent with who I am, I think it's important for folks to understand what this is and what it's not, first
Yeah,
and foremost.
yeah,
It's okay to say it's a passion of mine, it's a hobby of mine, it's whatever you want to call it for yourself. I think you got to be realistic with yourself first, because
mm,
there's not, for very few people, this is going to be a career. Um,
mm,
it's just not going to be. It's like, asking somebody who plays soccer, are they going to play pro?
mm,
Very few are, you know.
hmm, yeah,
So I think you first have to have that discussion with yourself mentally. Second of all, I think it's important, all the things that we talked about throughout the interview, learning your gear,
mm,
um, understanding what your camera can do and what it can't do, shooting in low light, practicing,
hmm,
the editing process and practicing.
hmm,
But I also think most importantly, it's finding a mentor who's willing to work with you. And it doesn't have to take a lot of time. It's showing that you care about somebody and you're willing to listen to them as they're working through their processes. I don't want a bunch of people who are just like me. I want them to be better than me.
yeah, hmm,
And I think that if folks would search out people to get real advice, critical advice, because it's
yeah,
not all, I can't look at stuff anymore online and say, that's a really great photo.
oh, yeah,
A lot of times I look at stuff and go, that is just absolute dog shit. It's just
yeah,
terrible.
hmm, hmm,
And people look at it and everyone's like, oh my God, that's the best picture ever. How
yeah,
could you have counted? And it's like, that's
hmm,
not true. When someone's not telling them the real
yeah,
information that they need, because I'm critical enough with the work I do, but I can say that nobody is going to look at this and want this to be paid for, let
hmm,
alone get you a photo pass for it.
yeah,
Um, Now, again, that doesn't take away from the creativity of people if you want to mix in a couple of flares or crystals or whatever you do. But
hmm,
I think that being able to have realistic expectations, like what Joe did with me early in my career, Joe Lester, to say,
hmm,
this just isn't clear. It's not
yeah,
sharp, man.
yeah,
You got to figure this out. And it didn't hurt my feelings. It gave
hmm,
me energy to say, I got to go figure this out. And
hmm,
if he wouldn't have done that, I could have searched out somebody who gave me the, oh, everything is great. You're just such a wonderful person. But it wouldn't have got me where I'm at today without critical feedback. And I
yeah,
don't think that's really today it's taken well. People take it well out of context. They
Hmm.
get very personal about things. And I think there's a way you do it. You can't blast people on social media and embarrass them, but you can have offline conversations, and I do often to say, that's a great picture, or
Hmm.
that's really not a
Yeah.
good picture at all.
I
You
think
know?
from being an editor in chief um, for magazines and stuff like that and publications, I'm a bit like that. And I've had contributors send me some images in, and I'm going, no, I'm sorry, that's not good enough. I've been quite open and honest, and I've gave them constructive criticism back, and it's helped them. And I've had a previous interview of a friend of mine, John Brown, who's actually opened and said that in an interview that I did help him, um, because he did admit his pictures were not up to standard, and I
Mhm.
was trying to build his confidence up as well, and showing him different techniques, different editing styles as well. And I'm like yourself. I'll not like a picture just because you're my mate or my friend or oh yeah, I'll just give you some likes because you need those likes. No, I'm not going to do that. And I would like them to do that with the same in my images. So that was another question that it's in this section. How critical are you of your own work?
Mhm.
Are you quite
Yeah.
critical? Yeah. I mean,
Well, I think
mm,
as a person, as a photographer, I'm
hmm,
probably the most critical.
yeah.
And I look at things differently than most everyone else does. You might look at one of my pictures and say, "Oh, wow, that's really great." And I might look at it and say, "Yeah, there's a lot to be
Hmm,
determined." But I've also given myself a lot of grace over the years to say you can't be that tough on yourself, because
hmm,
at the end of the day, it's not worth it. The heartache isn't worth it. We're doing things that we're passionate about.
hmm,
And if you can capture photos that make you smile, that someone outside of your realm likes and enjoys, then it's all worth it, right?
hmm,
But being critical in a good way
yeah.
is helpful, because it pushes us forward in a way that allows us to become better photographers, better editors, better people,
Hmm,
right?
yeah.
And so if you're not critical of yourself and everything you do is great, it's kind of a false narrative that, people then become disappointed and they just stop doing it when they find out that, like I have a lot of discussions with people about how do you become a house photographer. I said,
Mm,
well, there's it's not easy to do,
no, it's
and
not.
there's a lot of luck that comes to with that. You might have to be just in the right place at the right time for that to have worked out, because there's so many people who want to do those things.
Mm,
But when you get there, I can also share how do you keep that job,
yeah.
because that's more important than, once you get it, it's keeping it. And there's certain things that I've done that work.
Hmm,
But the critical parts of it are, I think that pushes me forward, that allows me to become better and not stagnant and bored.
yeah.
And I try to learn new things.
Hmm,
I love to learn new techniques. And whether I would take them into account, I want to know how you use a flare. I want to know these
yeah.
lens things that people do and Lightroom editing with swirl. I'd like to know.
Hmm,
Doesn't mean I want to do it per se, but I like to know how these things are done.
hmm,
And sometimes I'll throw out a creative shot every blue moon. That's just me probably late night goofing around. I won't
yeah.
publish that stuff, but again, I try to take feedback from everybody. And if someone says, and sometimes it's not even what people say, it's what they don't say.
Yeah.
Because if you send something to, you set a set of photos to somebody and they love them and they, oh my God, Matthew, that's so great. Great photo set. You killed it.
Mm.
If you don't get any response, then you're like, well, what the fuck? Was this good? Was
Yeah.
this did I do good? And some people just don't respond. I've
Yeah.
learned that there's a lot of people out there that just don't respond to anything. They love what you did. They just don't respond to it because they don't have
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
So I try not to take it personally. I just kind of know that this is the industry we're in. Some people are going to react, some people aren't. And the better you get, the more people that you have that don't like what you do.
Yeah.
You know,
Mm.
they're the haters and they'll pop out and start talking about all sorts of things. And I just tune all that out.
Mm.
And I share that with folks to say, as we all go forward here, do it for the right reasons. Do it because you're passionate, you love it. not because you think you're going to make $1 million doing it, but is it a
Yeah.
passion project that you can, use as a side gig and earn some extra cash and get some great experiences?
Hmm.
Because a lot of the stuff that I do now outside of music that's paid is a direct reflection of the work I did non-paid. And it's
Hmm.
not, I'm not an advocate for going out and doing everything for free, but when I was early on, there's certain things that you do, especially in publications where it's not paid.
Hmm.
Now, right now, I had a great gig this weekend at a yacht club, paid extremely well, much better than the other stuff that I do. And it was just because of the networking that I did in my music world,
Yeah.
right?
Hmm.
So I think that it's easy to get down on yourself and it's easy to become critical, overcritical. But I think if one would look at themselves as a kind of an artistic canvas and they're just work in progress,
Hmm.
as long as you're moving a foot forward every day, you'll take some steps back along the way, but you're going
Hmm.
to get where you want to go. And if you want to, I tell people, if you want to shoot the Rolling Stones and you really want to do it, you'll do it.
Yeah.
If they're touring, you
Yeah.
can figure that out if you really want to do it,
Hmm.
but it's not going to be given to you. And if you think someone's going to knock on your door because you're shooting for the vinyl district or, music behind the lens, whatever any of these things are, you're mistaken. It's got nothing to do with that. It's all about you.
Hmm.
And that's one of the things that the newer subset of photographers don't get is just because you shoot for Billboard doesn't mean you're shooting. It means they'll take you if they like you and they research you. People research your work and your writing and how you
Hmm.
interact, and it's a very tight community. And
Hmm.
so, if you don't do the things right and consistently, then you won't have those experiences that someone else on the team is going to get.
Hmm.
Um, and that's how I kind of look at it now
Yeah.
with some work.
No, it's pretty much, I'm sorry. It's pretty much how I look at it as well. Because the last question in this section is coming to near the end. What keeps you coming back? But I'm also going to put in there what's the future for Matthew Belter and the Vinyl District and the Honeypot? Is there
Yeah,
what's going on?
my
Yeah.
that's a great question. My regular business, the work with my brother and I do with my ice
Yeah.
distribution company is kind of my key thing.
Hmm.
Um, what I've been doing recently, because of a lot of my time is tight. I do my paid work at my arenas, the Honda Center and the Grove in Anaheim. It's kind of a subset group called OC Vibe. They're amazing people,
Okay.
and they've given me some amazing opportunities. And so I like shooting for them because I get to shoot things I've never shot before. You
Hmm.
know, rock and Espanol and K-pop and
Hmm.
gospel and things I would never go shoot on my own probably because it's just not in my wheelhouse. And I get a chance to do all those things. Um, but outside of that, what I've been doing, like the Vinyl District, I get out to a couple shows every now and again
Hmm.
for that. But I do a lot more writing, interviewing. I
Hmm.
recently, as I said, I interviewed Howard Jones. Sammy Hagar recently, about a month ago. Um, I've been doing a lot of vinyl, true vinyl reviews, like actually
Right.
getting the vinyl and throwing it on reviewing it from the perspective of someone who's dropping the needle on something.
Hmm.
It's been super cathartic for me just to sit around in my couch, have a drink, and just listen. Um, so much different than digital that you can't
Yeah.
just pause something and then come back to it. You got to lift the needle up, and it's a whole process. So that's how I've been evolving right now.
Hmm.
And if I get more time, I'll do more shows. I'd
Yeah.
love to go out and do more stuff for the Vinyl District in terms of live music. But
Hmm.
my contributions to them are fun and significant, and we both appreciate, my editor John and myself. We appreciate the back and forth that we do. I brought in
Hmm.
other photographers for him in my market to take up my slack, and they're great.
Yeah.
Um, so I just think that I'm going to continue to do this work,
Hmm.
um, as long as the work will have me.
Hmm.
And I have a bucket list of people that I want to shoot. I'm sure you do too.
Yeah. Yeah. Hmm.
And I'm slowly and surely, after so many years, I'm crossing people off, and I've got, it's a much smaller list now.
Hmm.
But we grew up. I mean, I'm sure very similar types of music. OMD and Depeche Mode and New Order and all these electronic bands, and then there's all the heavier bands,
Yeah.
that some I've shot and some I haven't.
Hmm.
And I just want to be able to do this as long as I can,
Yeah. Yeah.
you
I
know.
mean, but no, it's wonderful, and I love all the work that you do. If people are wanting to find more about you, is there, do you know, is there the links?
Yeah, I'll be glad to provide those to you. But most of my work, the Vinyl District,
Uh-huh.
I'll get you all the links so you can throw them up in the video. But
Yeah, yeah.
the Vinyl District, Icebox Photo 156, which is my Instagram feed.
Hmm.
I put a lot of stuff on there. I haven't done a lot recently, but that's where a lot of my music stuff goes in. And then, obviously following, the Grove and and Honda Center, because a lot of my work's there,
Hmm.
which is really cool. But the Vinyl District's probably the place where you're going to get the most
Hmm.
stuff from me, because I do shows there, I do product reviews,
Hmm.
um, I do album reviews and things, and it's a neat. There's such a warm, and that particular John Myers, who runs the publication, he's
Yeah.
in DC, and he's just been phenomenal at
Hmm.
allowing me to kind of run with certain things. I help manage the team, the photojournalists and such.
Yeah.
So there's some places that you can find me, and I'll definitely share all that with you. And I would love for people to jump in, give me feedback. Just I'm open to talk to people about mentors and mentorships and other stuff.
Hmm. Hmm.
And that's how I think that's the best way to go about it, is just keeping a door open. A lot of folks have given me a lot.
Yeah.
Some
Yeah.
I've mentioned today, Matthias and Steve
Yeah.
Brazel and Joe Lester, and I think other people that are out there that go unnamed, but have been instrumental in helping me, and they
Hmm.
always kept their door open. It
Yeah.
was never gatekept, and I try to do that for my team and
Yeah.
and others who might be interested.
And I'm really grateful that you've been taking part in this project because,
Oh, well, thank you, and that means a lot to me. And again, the community, like you mentioned, Mike. I know Mike really well, and
yeah, he's
he's a
great.
West Coast guy, and he's always generous with his time.
Hmm.
When you're in a photo pit, even if he's working, he takes the time to give you a hug
Hmm.
and talk to you for a few
Yep.
minutes. And I've known him for a long time, and
Hmm.
I think the community, like Anna Lee, I don't know her well, but I've worked with her before on certain things, over
Hmm.
the years at different shows and such. And there's a whole list of those folks that are out there that care.
Hmm.
A lot of people like to badmouth the ones that don't, like, oh, this person's
Hmm.
not friendly and this and that. I think you got to focus on the ones that are.
Yeah,
You,
definitely.
you just got to search out the people that truly care about what they're doing,
Hmm.
and they're generous with their time. And being part of this, when I reached out, we were talking a little bit.
Hmm.
I just felt that what you were doing was just what was needed
Yeah,
for this community. And I think that the
thanks.
more other people are, especially this newer wave of photographers, are exposed
Hmm.
to different discussions on different viewpoints about
Yeah.
things. My
Hmm.
viewpoints are different than others, and
Hmm.
Steve Brazel's got a different point of view, and
Yeah.
Iron Mike is going to have a different point of view, and on it goes. But
Hmm.
the more you're exposed to things, the better off you're going to be. And I
Hmm.
think that's where we need to be going as a group, helping
Hmm.
each other, mentoring
Hmm.
each other, giving hugs where necessary, but also being direct and
Hmm.
critical where it needs to be, so that you can
Yeah.
get better.
Yeah,
You know,
definitely.
and that's what
100%.
you're doing right now. And I think
Yeah,
you're
appreciate
getting
that.
information out to people
Hmm.
in a passionate way, and it shows. And all
Hmm.
your questions today were spot on in terms of thoughtfulness, and
Hmm.
I'm excited to see how you pull it together. Quite honestly, it's going to be
Yeah,
exciting.
thanks very much, mate. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Martin. Have a wonderful day. I appreciate you. We'll talk soon.
Thank you, Matthew. You too. All the
Bye bye
best.
now.
Take care now. Bye.
Cheers.